actually Phil's going to be filming a lot while I'm talking to the camera, but you guys, as you're exploring the beach, if you find cool animals, you can bring them to me, and I will talk about them in front of the camera. And our audience, there's two different school groups that are watching this show, this broadcast at the University of Victoria. They're in the library at University of Victoria, so they've never been to a beach like this, and we're going to show them what it's like to visit a beach like this and all the creatures that live here. So you guys can help me out for sure by bringing me the things that you find, whether it's a cool shell or maybe a crab or a piece of seaweed that you don't know about it, you don't know what it is. You can show that to me and I can talk about it in front of the camera for the rest of the audience. If you can catch a seagull, maybe. Yeah. I think they do too, yeah. You're right.
Just so that our hosts know, can you listen? I just want to sort you so that I've got you into waivers and non-waivers. Bear with me. So, sitting next to Taylor, can I have Jordan? Come down. Taylor and Dallas.
Good. Rich is online.
One bucket you can put it. You either carry it in your hands or put it in the bucket you can hold it.
You guys, there's a whale right over here.
Whoa!
Oh yeah.
You are the whale whisperers this week. Wow.
I hope you did it, but it actually
Don't you hop on the boat?
There he is, yeah. See him over there? The top of it. There's a little nest in there.
You can all see it.
They can see it in
They're
the
going,
photo.
there's a whale!
Yes! That's great. So Anna's going to be monitoring the comments coming in from Victoria. They're going to be writing questions and comments on Facebook. And Anna's going to be letting us know what the audience is saying on the other side of the room. There it is again.
Sorry. Let's keep track.
Yeah, that was pretty good actually. I'm not very good. So all these little rocks right over here. Yeah, we can look at other places too. We're gonna kind of see groups that will over their way over in that direction. Over that side of the island first. We'll get to that but we're not gonna go too close to this one on the side. If it comes up to me, then don't touch it. Don't even try.
Yeah. Out of the van.
And then through the,
Want to use mine if you're with us?
Did you guys visit any other beaches in Bamfield? First one in Bamfield. First and only. Well, that's a good one. Yeah, Morris is a rock.
going, Dave?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Phil, I think we are ready to get started.
Are we?
Isn't it there ready?
Okay. Coming in.
All right. Good morning, Victoria. I would like to welcome you to Wizard Island. My name is Kelly, and I have students from the Klulit First Nation here visiting with me. We are here in Huayet territory this morning, and we're going to do a little bit of exploring on the beach to see what kinds of animals live here. So I wanted to start out first by explaining some of the safety rules for exploring the beach. And the students here with me, and myself included, all of us staff, we're all wearing our life jackets. So the life jackets are really important in case anybody accidentally fell in the water, or on the other side of the island, which you'll see later on.
Hey, Kelly? They're saying they can't hear any audio.
Oh,
Just, I get a little bit closer.
how about if I get really close to the camera?
There's just a little lag behind, so we're still talking about life jackets.
Well, you could hear it though on your thing.
Yeah.
So we have to explain the technical difficulties.
Yeah, things are slow here. Maybe we should take a look at.
Okay, they're good. Sounds good, they say.
Maybe we should have a look at where Bamfield is in relation to here.
Okay.
So, Wizard Island is a really small island. It's more just a rock. The students here were calling it a pebble just a second ago. And this rock has no trees on it, no houses on it. It's only, I don't know, it's not even a kilometer long. It's really small. And it's located in the middle of Barkley Sound, in the middle of nowhere on Vancouver Island. So we came here from the Bamfield Marine Sciences Center this morning, which is all the way over across the channel. That's called Trevor Channel over there. And you can just see some buildings over there in the distance. That's the Bamfield Marine Sciences Center. It took us about 10 or 15 minutes to come here by boat this morning. So now we have all of Wizard Island to explore, and the students here are going to help me discover the animals that we can find on the beach here at low tide. The tide is still going out. It's just after 9, so we have about 15 minutes before the tide is at its lowest point, and that's where we're going to find most of the cool animals that live here on Wizard Island. So if you guys are ready, we're gonna start exploring. We're gonna head down into this rocky section of beach over here, and we're gonna start flipping some rocks to see what kinds of creatures we can find under the rocks. All right, so come on over, have a look.
Maybe I'll find a seal.
The students really want to find a seal under the rocks. I don't think we'll see one, but
I don't know about that one.
so all you guys need to do is pick up a rock and just have a look at what. Excellent. Oh, wonderful. So we got some crabs. These are shore crabs. And he wants to scurry around in my hands a lot.
Is it a boy or a girl?
Oh, good question, Phil. Boy crabs or girl crabs? We have to flip them over to see. This crab is a boy. And I can tell that it's a boy because of the shape of the back of its tail right here. It's sort of shaped like a lighthouse. So that's a boy crab. And he's small enough that he's not going to pinch me, but he's definitely trying to escape from my hands for sure. So the best thing when you're finished looking at a crab is to put him back exactly where you found him. So I'm just going to put him back under this rock, and then really gently just put the rock back just like I found it, and then I'm gonna find another rock.
I got a tiny Jeffrey here.
Tiny Jeffrey, who's that?
Tiny Jeffrey.
This is another short crab. Check it out. So just like our other one, but let's see if Jeffrey is actually a girl.
Yeah.
So when this crab, when you look, sorry, this one's a little bit smaller. This one has sort of a dome shaped or an igloo shaped tail to it. So this crab is a girl. So I don't know. She could still be named Jeffrey.
Yeah.
That's okay. back in the bucket. Can you return Jeffrey to where you found her?
Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. Let's see what else we can find.
Speak loud.
Okay. Let's try this one.
You find another?
No.
Jiffy's all over.
More shore crabs. Another one. So these are the same kind once again. Purple shore crabs. And if you watch these shore crabs, they always hide. They go right back under the rocks and they're hiding under there all the time because that's a safe place for them. If they stay out in the open, they might get eaten by things like birds or other predators that might come along in the intertidal zone and snack on them. So they are definitely good at hiding.
Got a question.
Got a question. Oh, cool. Can you guys see these? These look like bugs. You might find bugs like this in your basement back at home if you have a basement. They look like pill bugs or sow bugs, but these are the marine version of them. So these are called isopods. And isopods are really cool because they change their color depending on what type of seaweed they live in. So these ones are kind of brown, a little bit greenish brown colored, because all around here, all the seaweed that we're finding on the rocks is green or brown. So they just blend in super well and they camouflage. See, they're almost exactly the same color as this little piece of seaweed. So that's a really great adaptation for these animals to survive and hide while they're living in the intertidal zone. They're clinging to one another now because they are a little bit frightened having been removed from their home.
Do you want to bring that one over?
I'll put them
That's a
back
cool white
down.
crab you have.
And I also want to point out this particular piece of seaweed that we're looking at is nori. So that's the kind of seaweed that they make sushi out of. It grows right here in the intertidal zone in Bamfield, and you could eat this. This one has little bits of sand all over it, so I'm not going to eat it, but it is edible and it is kind of tasty for snacking on. That's what it looks like before it gets all dried out and rolled into sushi. So you found a really cool white shore crab. Oh, and an even babier one. I don't know if our camera will be able to see that, but there's a super small little baby crab here. They're both white. So this is a different variation of those shore crabs. They always walk sideways, whoops, and they scurry away pretty quick. But that's a cool find. We got another cool find here. A male crab? Yeah. Another shore crab.
It's Crab City out here.
Lots of crabs. Everybody's got handfuls of crabs around here.
I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Are you sure none of them are females or anything?
Well, the only way to check is to flip them over and look underneath them and see if they're shaped like a lighthouse or an igloo.
Lighthouse.
Lighthouse, so that's a male crab. Awesome. All right, let's go a little further. And as we walk along, maybe in the room in Victoria, if you guys have any questions for me about anything that you're seeing around here, you can get those, you can ask those questions in a comment, and then I can answer your questions. So let's keep looking. Back where you found it. Adam. I see a cool animal that someone has found over here. So just on the beach ahead of me, they found a really cool animal. Oh my gosh! Great find! That is so awesome. Can you guys see this? This is an ochre star. It's a beautiful purple color. And this is one of the most common kinds of sea star that we find around here in Bamfield. Probably you get them in Victoria too. If we look at the other side, underneath, it's stuck to a whole bunch of rocks because every arm of this sea star has lots of really sticky suction cups. So it can stick onto the rocks really, really strong. It's actually impressive that we got it off the rocks because they're so strong. They hold on really, really tight. But this one took a couple of tiny rocks with it when it was removed from the rocks. Right in here in the center, you can't really see it too well, but that's where its mouth would be. and it has generally always 5 arms, but sometimes you find them with an extra arm, just because if they accidentally lose an arm, they can grow them back. Sometimes they grow back the wrong number of arms if they lose some arms. Very cool.
If they lose an arm.
Oh, the other kind. This is perfect. So these sea stars are 2 different colors, but they're actually the same species. What was it?
There's a tiny, tiny crab.
Oh no!
It's tinier than this.
So these ochre stars, they're both ochre stars, but some ochre stars come in orange and some ochre stars come in purple, but they're exactly the same species. And they always have this beautiful white pattern of little speckles all over them. It's different for different stars. They're really hard feeling. Hey, do you guys, what do you think? Yeah, they feel hard like rocks. Even though they're a living animal, they're really tough, really rocky feeling. So if you ever get a chance, if you're down on the beach in Victoria and you find one of these, try to pick it up, but you probably won't be able to. They're stuck very, very firmly to the rocks.
I have a question from Victoria.
Yeah.
Cole wants to know how many crabs we could find.
Oh, we have a challenge, you guys. How many crabs can we find?
I don't know if we can answer that number. They're all over the place.
What if everybody tried to find 5 crabs? Could we do it?
Oh, I can find
15. We think we can find 15 crabs right here. Okay, we should put these sea stars back where we found them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Can you take these sea stars back to where they came from?
There's a whole bunch in there.
And then we can start looking for crabs.
They've all disappeared.
There's 1, 2.
Oh, so soon. This crab, and even though you might try to.
Oh,
There's 3. Nice one. All right, let's see how many more we can find. We're at 3.
the other question, Kelly, is will we explore all around the island?
Let's explore most of the island.
Yeah.
4,
See?
5. Let's see what they found over here. A big one?
Regarding the other side of the island, all around the island, it's fairly large. And the other side is a little bit more exposed and wavy, so we want to stay safe and stay within the sheltered areas.
One more thing that just found really cool.
Okay.
Oh, seaweed.
So in answer to Cole's question about how many crabs we could find, I think we found more than 15 crabs. This is a bucket full of lots of crabs. So that's just a quick indication of how many crabs are actually living on this beach here. That's pretty cool. I think that we should keep exploring around the island a little bit further. So we'll go in this direction and see what else there is to see.
So go ask Kelly what you think what that is.
Oh, yeah! So we're about to find some of these kinds of animals as we explore the beach. This one is conveniently located on a rock that we can pick up. Does anybody know what this is? This creature is an invertebrate, and it's called an anemone, and it's a giant green anemone. Right now it's kind of closed up because it's a little bit sad that I took it out of the water. It doesn't like being out of the water, although you can find it on the beach at low tide. When the tide goes out, they look very much like this. And I think you guys have these around Victoria as well. So giant green anemone, right in the center is its mouth. And crazy fact about these anemones, its mouth is also its anus. So everybody likes that. Fun fact about anemones. I'm not gonna touch it in its mouth anus.
Mouth butt.
Yeah.
Oh.
Some of our students are more brave.
This is Fred. This is Fred.
And Fred would unfortunately get eaten by our anemone. We're not gonna do that though today. But if Fred unfortunately fell into an anemone, the anemone would definitely snack on him. So that's the food chain.
All right, Kelly, another question if you want to
Yeah, let's have a question.
send that in the bucket.
Put the anemone back. Yeah, it does feel really squishy.
You got another
My
big one,
hand is a
Callie.
little bit slimy actually from holding him.
Callie, I got another big one. But
Another
this one,
big crab?
this one didn't kill me.
That's good.
Okay, ready for a question?
Ready for a question?
So, what are the visible environmental impacts from climate change?
Oh, that's a great one. So that's a tough question to answer. But if we go back to those ochre stars that I was holding up earlier, the orange one and the purple one, we've seen a lot of changes in the distribution of ochre stars along the beach within the last few years. And the ochre stars are subject to a disease that it seems to kind of turns them into zombies almost. It makes their arms kind of all bushy and fall apart. And they usually are not able to survive this once they catch this disease. And we think that warmer temperatures are maybe one of the causes of this disease. It's actually a virus, and the virus seems to spread more prominently when the temperatures are warmer. So a couple of years ago, all the sea stars disappeared from our coast, and they've now started to recover, but that's definitely an impact that maybe it's related to climate change, maybe it would have happened anyway, we're not quite sure, but definitely a possibility and something that scientists at the Bamfield Marine Sciences Center are monitoring. We have a number of different people that are studying where the sea stars live each year. This has been going on for many years now to see what the impacts are. Okay, so we have another cool find. This thing, this piece of seaweed. This is a red seaweed, and if you can, I don't know if you can tell, but it's covered in really small little bumps. And it kind of feels a little bit like a face cloth. And you could, I don't know, use it in the shower to wash your face. It's exfoliating, and the name of this seaweed is Turkish towel. I don't know why Turkish, because we're not in Turkey, but
Take the seaweed.
that's the seaweed. What's the question?
Oh, I was going to say take the seaweed.
Oh.
Handing her seaweed.
Seaweed. So another kind. They're very similar. Sometimes the seaweeds have bumps on them, sometimes they do not. They could be the same species, they could be different species. At the marine station right now, we have 24 university students that are taking courses in Bamfield, and they have a 3-week course that's all about seaweeds. So they're learning nothing but seaweeds, red seaweeds, brown seaweeds, green seaweeds, for 3 whole weeks at the marine station. So they would be able to tell you all about these seaweeds. We have lots of other ones on the beach as well. I want to find at some point a piece of giant kelp to show you, because that's a really cool kind of seaweed that we have here.
Let's. I'll pass you this. There's a few questions in a row. I don't know if you want to answer one and then move on. And
My hands are a little bit slimy from all
okay,
the seaweeds.
I'll.
Maybe Phil should read the questions for me.
We're getting a few here. Will birds find crabs in the sand if they are hiding?
Probably not. So if the crabs are hiding in the sand or under the rocks, some birds do have special beaks that they can dig around in the sand and they can find those crabs, but probably crabs are very good at hiding and they are not going to get eaten usually.
Okay. They're asking to repeat the climate change answer.
So it's a long one. I'll repeat the climate change answer, how it relates to sea stars. The ochre stars that we find on our beach here, the orange ones and the purple ones, they, a couple of years ago, all developed a disease that we call it wasting disease. And what happened, the arms of the sea stars turned all white and it was almost like they melted. They looked really sick and unhealthy, and many of them died as a result of the disease. And it seemed that this disease spread more in warmer conditions. So in a summer that was very hot, very warm, the sea stars got more signs of this wasting disease, and almost all of them disappeared from our coastline. That was a few years ago. We have scientists that have been studying the wasting disease ever since then and have found kind of some relations to climate change, possibly. So it's too soon to say for sure. Just a second. But the research is showing that definitely warmer temperatures do contribute to the sea stars having this disease. Yeah, do you guys have a question?
and
No,
yeah.
we found a bigger crab.
And you guys still have the ochre stars. So there's the ones that we were talking about in relation to the climate change question. These ones look really big and healthy, but for a number of years on the BC coast, you couldn't find those ochre stars. They had all disappeared because of that wasting disease. So it's nice to see them back again, but we don't know if the disease might happen again next summer, or who knows. So still more research needs to be done.
And what's that tower in the background, Kelly?
Oh, good question. So this island is mostly just a rock in the middle of the ocean. And that tower on the very top of it has a light. So at night the light blinks and it warns ships that are in this area that Wizard Island is here, so they know not to crash into the rocks here. So it's a navigation thing for nighttime boating.
Okay, and finally, my list of questions from Parker. How many colors of sea stars are there?
Whoa, great question, Parker. So with ochre stars, they mostly come in purple and orange, but sometimes they are also reddish or kind of brownish too. But those are the main colors, purple and orange. But turns out there are lots of different species of sea stars. The ones that are different colors usually live deeper underwater, so even at the lowest tide you might not see them. But if you were scuba diving, you would find sea stars that are red or purple or blue or stripy or rainbow colored even. There's one called a rainbow sea star. So they come in lots of colors and they're very beautiful. Somebody found an interesting piece of seaweed, or seagrass actually. So this one is called eelgrass. And eelgrass, it has a little root at the bottom, so it's not actually a seaweed, it's a plant, and it's got roots. This would have been buried into the sand on the bottom of the ocean, and then this part, just like grass in your yard, grows up. But it's a super important part of the habitat here around Wizard Island because it forms a nursery. It's like a safe haven for so many different kinds of invertebrates and animals that can hide in amongst the fronds of the seagrass. So little baby fish, tiny crabs, all those crabs that we saw under the rocks earlier, they all live in amongst seaweed just like this, or seagrass just like this. And some of them even snack on it too. There are snails that eat this, and other creatures that use this for food. So this is just one piece. Normally it grows together in a big bed, or almost like a lawn, just like on your garden, and it provides a pretty important home for lots of creatures. So that's a cool find. We'll add that back to our bucket.
Do you happen to know why it's called Wizard Islet?
I always joke that there's a bald eagle that is a wizard, and he lives here on Wizard Island. But I think it actually goes back to the days of some of the first explorers that came here on ships. I believe there was a boat that was named the Wizard, and so they decided to name the island after that boat.
I think I heard or read it's because that boat hit the rock.
Oh, that's very likely.
Usually out here, if you hit something, we name it after you.
Yeah, that's true. The light station wasn't there in the 1700s.
No.
Very easy to run aground on Wizard Island for sure. Let's go a little further and find some actual tide pools here on this beach, because right now we just passed low tide, so now the tide is shifting. It's going to start coming back in again. So I can see some tide pools over here that we're going to go and visit.
It's gotta be very loud. They're not hearing it very well because a lot of.
A jelly! Not a happy jelly. All right, so over here, Em has found a sea jelly, and
Ooh, it's very slippery.
Yeah, it's very slippery. We are going to investigate the sea jelly. It seems to have washed up. It's not actually alive very much anymore. We have to go really slowly because all the rocks are covered in seaweed in this spot, so it's very difficult to move quickly. Ooh, this looks gross! And by gross, I mean awesome. So, this right here, can you guys see that? This blob of slime that got caught at low tide used to be a jellyfish. It doesn't look too good anymore. This was probably a moon jelly, which you guys would see those around Victoria as well. This one looks pretty rotten now. So unfortunately, sometimes when the tide goes out, it leaves animals behind that they just got caught by accident, and it's not going to survive this low tide. Oh, cool! This one! You guys might recognize this. This is a type of seaweed called bull kelp. Bull kelp. You sometimes see just this part of it poking up from the surface of the water, and it floats. This one doesn't because it now has a hole in the back, but when it's fresh and growing happily out there in the ocean, this part sort of bobs up on the surface of the water, and all these little leafy bits are just like leaves on a tree or a plant that they catch the sunlight and photosynthesize. This is a really small one. They can get to be way bigger than me, many, many meters long when they're full size. So this is just a small example of a bull kelp.
What makes them float, Kelly?
The floaty bit inside here, when this is full, it's like a balloon and it's full of gas, but it's not oxygen inside, it's actually carbon monoxide is the gas that lives inside the float of a bull kelp. This is, I think, the only seaweed that has carbon monoxide. No?
No, all the kelps with a float.
Yes. They have carbon monoxide in them.
Yeah, it makes them float.
Strange.
Question from Jacob. He wants to know how many different kinds of jellyfish might there be in our area?
That's a good one. There's a lot.
There's a lot.
And some of them are really tiny. We have jellyfish that are only about this big, so it's really hard to count how many different ones
Yeah,
are out there.
Lobelia, Polyorchus, the lion's mane,
Yeah.
the sea nettle, the moon jellies,
This one's probably a moon jelly.
the fried egg jelly.
Fried egg jelly.
They're very cool.
It actually looks like a fried egg. It's got a yellow spot in the middle like a yolk and then a white outside to it. Really does look like a fried egg.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I remember.
Yeah.
It's probably more.
Generally with jellyfish, if they have purple or red tentacles in BC, you don't want to touch those ones. They're probably going to sting you and it's going to hurt. But if you find one that is white or clear, usually those are safe to touch in BC. In other parts of the world, those rules don't apply. But here, those generally that's how I judge if it's okay to touch a jellyfish or not.
What do we got?
Find. So this is the shell of a rock crab. So the rest of the crab is no longer attached to it. This is probably a molt. And every so often, crabs have to shed their exoskeleton or their shell in order to grow bigger. They get too big inside their shells, but because their skeleton is on the outside of their body rather than on the inside like with us, they just have to get rid of their whole outer skeleton. So this crab has literally crawled out of its shell. It's probably still alive over there in the intertidal zone somewhere, running around, but it left its shell behind. It's a little bit broken here at the back. It's really cool when you find a crab molt that it's fresh, it's just happened, because it has all the legs attached, even the eyeballs. The little crab eyeball coverings are part of the molt. So it sheds its eyeballs. It's crazy when it first molts. It can't do anything because it's all soft and squishy and it doesn't even have the ability to see or breathe or do anything. So it takes a couple days to recover from molting. But yeah, probably this crab is still alive somewhere out there. Very cool.
Back to jellyfish.
Yeah.
Mustaf wants to know how many colors of jellyfish do you know?
Do I know?
Or do-
Yellow, white, red, purple.
Kind of greeny brown.
Yeah.
Those the sea nettles, yeah, they're quite olive green.
Yeah. They're pretty colorful. They're beautiful. I love to watch them swim.
Yeah.
But yeah, try not to touch them if you can help it. They could be dangerous.
Yeah, don't lick the jellies.
Don't lick the jellies. All right. Keep thinking of questions. I love all these questions that are coming in from you guys in the audience. So keep asking them. And as you're thinking of questions, we'll keep exploring in this direction.
What does M have?
Very cool seaweed again. So this seaweed is a red seaweed, and unrelated to bull kelp, it doesn't have any floaty bits that make it stay up in the water. This one lives attached to the rocks. It has a really cool feeling. I wish you guys could feel this as I run my fingers through it. It's like touching spaghetti. And so that's actually the name of this seaweed. It is called sea spaghetti. Not really meant to eat. It's not poisonous, but it's also not particularly tasty in my opinion. But this is a good one for just to provide a habitat on the shoreline. Again, lots of little creatures could hide in and amongst the spaghetti strands of this seaweed. Oh, some students have found a really cool animal behind us. So let's talk about this for a moment. Very, very cool. This is an animal that we don't normally find in the intertidal zone. It usually lives deeper underwater. It's still alive. Its spines are moving. Yeah, and you are holding the food of this animal. So this is a sea urchin, a red sea urchin, and the sea urchins love to eat kelp. This one's called giant kelp. Can we see how giant this kelp is? Let's stretch this out. Whoa, look at that. Look how giant this kelp is.
Here, hold the other end of the kelp. Let's stretch it out.
Whoa. That's how big. And this is still just a small piece of this kelp. It gets even bigger. Yeah. And this is the favorite food of a sea urchin.
My hands are slimy.
That's okay, the kelp makes it slimy. Can I see the sea urchin for a second? I want to show you. This is the sea urchin's mouth, right here in the center. It has 5 teeth. 5 teeth right there in the middle.
And I'm guessing.
And it kind of disappeared inside for a second, but it'll come back.
I'm guessing like the anemone. That's also a anus.
No,
Nope.
actually, good observation. So this is its mouth, but it's not its anus, not like the anemone. So it has a separate anus on the top. You can't really see it. It's kind of mixed in with the rest of the body, but the mouth is what it uses to eat this kelp, and it even has 5 teeth to kind of chew on the bits of kelp in order to get it into its stomach. Very strange animal. See all the spines moving? It is spiky, but I can touch it without hurting myself too bad. I wouldn't want to step on it, but it doesn't actually hurt my fingers too badly. So that's a really cool find, you guys. There's another one. Oh, all right. Can we make sure that this urchin gets put back where it was found? Thank you. And so while we're
And hey, anybody want to say hi to the people in Victoria? Hi, what's your name? Hi, Destiny. What's your name? Lindsay. Hi. Where are you guys from again? Ucluelet, not too far away.
We should show them where Ucluelet is in just a second. So, since we were talking about giant kelp, and we still have our piece of giant kelp here, this is an example of a crab. He's trying to pinch my finger right now. I gotta watch out for this.
Owie.
Be nice, kelp. Be nice. So, this is a crab that you often find just hanging out right on the pieces of kelp. And look at how its colors blend in so well. It camouflages perfectly with the color of the seaweed. So they often end up, we sometimes find them in our lab without even knowing they were there, just because we tried to collect some seaweed and the kelp crab, as he's called, was stuck right to it. He was trying to escape. So you often find them living on the pieces of seaweed, or the bottom of the kelp crab is a beautiful red color. See that? Beautiful color. So it doesn't camouflage as well from the underside, but normally that part is hidden because it's against the seaweed, so predators wouldn't see that part of the crab.
Boy or girl?
Oh, good question. Boy or girl? Let's find out. This one's a boy.
Interesting.
Yeah. He doesn't want to show off his lighthouse shape to me very well, but it is a boy. So again, let's put this crab back where we found him, so that he's not You can take his help too.
He's camera shy.
Yeah. I know a person who's like that. Yeah.
You want to go back some questions, Kelly?
Sure, I'd love to answer some more questions. And as we do that, maybe we can work our way up to the other side of the beach as well.
Okay, better if we're not moving.
Okay, we'll stay here.
Just for audio sake.
Okay.
Yeah, they're having a bit of trouble hearing us, so
Yeah.
we're doing our best to keep it loud. A lot of noise from our surroundings. Let's see, someone asked, how do viruses infect sea stars in saltwater environment?
It's really easy for viruses to spread in salt water because they can just be transmitted in the water.
Yeah, there are saltwater viruses just like freshwater viruses.
Yeah, and so what it means is that you generally don't just get one animal that gets infected. Normally all of the animals get infected when it's a virus because they have no way to get away from that virus. There's no way to quarantine themselves on the shoreline. So unfortunately they're often all affected by a virus.
Yeah.
More questions?
Okay, yep. How many kinds of crabs do we, from Parker, do we think will be on Wizard Island?
How many kinds? Well, so far, we just saw the kelp crab, so there's one. We saw a lot of different kinds of shore crabs under the rocks there, so there's two. We haven't seen any porcelain crabs yet. That's a third one that probably lives here. And we may find them if we flip more rocks over, but I'm not 100% sure that they're here. And then the crab carapace that we found earlier, that molt from the crab, was a red rock crab. So there's a fourth kind of crab that probably lives here on Wizard Island. Can you think of any others still?
Well, I know we look at things on the other side with our big boat, so there'll be some Dungeness crab, a lot of different decorator crab as well, like spidery types of decorator crabs, all kinds of shrimp as well. I just want to mention, so Mustaf asked, can shrimps breathe out of water? And I'm afraid not.
Yeah.
All of these sea creatures, they have gills and they need to breathe in the water. Except for
those isopods we saw earlier. Remember those bugs that I showed you at the beginning? Those isopods, they do survive for a little while out of the water. So they weren't dead. When I was holding them in my hand, they were a little bit shocked because I was holding them in my hand, but they were okay. And when I put them back, they were going to survive.
Yeah, and that being said, these crabs, they're out of water right now under rocks and such, but their gills are still moist and they can still survive until the tide comes back. Oh, and one more before we walk around.
One more question, yeah.
So we saw a red sea urchin. How many other colors
Great question.
do we have?
We have 3 main kinds of sea urchins in BC, and the kinds are organized by their color. So red is one of the colors, but the other colors are purple and green. So different, you can tell them apart really easily. The purple ones are bright purple, the green ones are kind of like a grayish green color, usually a little bit smaller. And fun fact about sea urchins, especially the red one, like what I was holding earlier, a red sea urchin can live to be up to 200 years old. That's the lifespan of a red urchin. 200 years old.
That we know of.
That we know of, yeah. Nobody else is really checking past 200 years. So that's actually research that was done at the Bamfield Marine Sciences Center to figure that one out. That's pretty cool. Great.
Where do you want to go?
We want to go to the other side of the beach. You guys were asking if you could explore the whole island. So I want to take you over to where those people are standing. We're going to have to travel kind of slow because we don't want to trip on all the slippery seaweeds down here. But we'll make our way over to the other side of the island. I want to show you the wave action over there and Ucluelet, since all of our students are from Ucluelet. And then it may be time to say goodbye shortly after that. So let's make our way to the other side of the beach. You guys can keep on asking questions as we're walking, and I'll do my best to answer.
Yeah, and I'll help too. Just while we're thinking about it, can we? Mustafa wants to know more about the virus. Like, do they have names? And from what I recall, it's known as a retrovirus in the case of the sea stars. Unfortunately, I don't. Do you know any of the virus names or more about them? Yeah, basically the viruses are infected or the sea stars are infected with the virus, and when the water warms up, their immune system is quite weakened, and the virus ends up taking over. That's what we know so far, as far as I know, of us here. Oh, Kelly, do you have a favorite sea animal?
It's a tough decision for me to pick a favorite. I actually really like jellyfish. I think they're so cool, especially to watch them swim, just the way they bob around in the water. I think they're really beautiful and fun. I have been stung by a jellyfish though, and that wasn't great. Luckily it wasn't a really dangerous one. It was kind of like getting stung by a bee. It just hurt, but I was okay. I still think they're really cool. It's really hard for me to choose a favorite, but jellyfish are definitely up there.
That was from Cosetta.
Rosetta, thank you.
So here we are, other side.
We're almost there. I want to take you a little bit further. Although if you can see in the distance, the mountains over here, there you go. So that last mountain over in the distance is right above Ucluelet. All of our students that are visiting today are from Ucluelet, and that's the other side of Barkley Sound from where Bamfield is located. So they can almost see home from here, but not quite. But I wanted to show you this side of the beach because it also faces open ocean. So where we were before was kind of a sheltered little bay, but now as you come over to this side of the island, you can see out on the horizon open ocean. Let's pan out to open ocean. And so on this side of the island, we start to find different kinds of animals because they're facing this open ocean and there's much more wave action. One of our students has just found a really cool example of an animal that only lives on the beaches that are facing more open ocean. This one unfortunately is dead, I think. Oh, it's full of sand.
There's stuff on it.
And it has tiny snails on it. So it's a mussel. This shell here is a California mussel. And it is also habitat to a couple of tiny little periwinkle snails, which are just crawling around on the shell of the mussel.
I got exoskeleton.
An exoskeleton of a crab?
Yeah.
With no crab inside?
Yeah.
Bring it over, let me see. Perfect.
Okay, do you guys know, is there a Jordan and Kayla in the group? Yeah? Someone from Victoria. Lily says hi, or wants to know. Do you know Lily? Do you want to say hi?
Lily says hi to Jordan and Victoria.
No. Kayla?
Kayla?
Are you Kayla?
Nope, Kayla's here.
Oh, Jordan. Hi, Jordan. Where's Kayla?
Kayla's right behind you.
Right behind me.
Kayla's got a handful of.
Do you know Lily and Victoria?
Whoa.
Okay.
Amazing.
There's Kayla. Hi, Kayla.
So all of these shells, I can't believe you found this many. Here, can I hand you this? I can put it back. Yes, thank you. These are abalone shells, you're right. These are from an endangered species. So abalone are a really large snail. This is the size of it when it's alive. And it has this beautiful shiny shell inside. I think First Nations people use the shells for lots of different things, including fishing lures, but also buttons and things on their clothing too, for decorations. And I mean, you can see how beautiful those shells are. Look how they catch the sunlight. They're so sparkly, so shiny. And that's just the natural color of an abalone shell. They're really beautiful. So the shells, can we look at a whole one here? Maybe actually this big one. Yeah. So when you look at the shell, it's got a typical spiral of a snail shell, but it also has these little holes or openings in it. And when the snail is alive, that's where its gills are located. It has gills so it can breathe underwater, and the gills are right underneath the holes so that the seawater can be exposed to the gills and that they can remove the oxygen from the water so they can breathe. So that's why the shells have those little holes in them. Really beautiful, good find. I don't know how you found so many, but that's a really awesome find.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I didn't really get to talk about this little crab shell that I've been holding for a few minutes, but this is a molt from a crab. So the back, this is a small one, so it's very difficult, I'm sure, for you guys to see, but the back of this shell just sort of peels open and it's totally hollow inside. There's no crab here because the crab that made this shell has molted. He scurried out the back and he's off exploring the intertidal zone somewhere, but he left almost an intact, perfectly complete shell behind. So that's a neat thing. You sometimes find these on the beach and you think, oh, it's a dead crab, but actually it's just a crab molt. So, very cool.
More questions, Kelly?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. What are scientists noticing in relation to plastic pollution in ocean and in ocean ecosystems?
That's a great question. So when we examine the diets of different animals, and it's different for different ones, but for instance, that mussel that I showed you earlier, and here's just a small shell of a mussel that happened to be on the ground by my feet. Mussels are filter feeders. So what they do is they just eat plankton that's floating around out in the water, and they filter out all the nutritious bits, and then that's their food source. But when you have plastic pollution in the water, they can't tell the difference between plankton or plastic. So as they're sucking in plankton to feed on, they also suck in little plankton bits, and that gets trapped inside of them. And this is a food source for humans as well. Do you guys like to eat mussels?
Nope.
No?
No?
Some people like to eat mussels. So
Mussels.
unknowingly, we actually eat those little plastic bits that get eaten by the mussels just because they're out there in the environment and they accidentally get eaten. That's just one example of an animal that eats plastic unknowingly, and we're finding this more and more, mostly because plastic, when it breaks down, it never really goes away. It just breaks into smaller and smaller pieces, and the smaller it gets, the more likely it is to be eaten by a little animal like a mussel. So
Okay.
that's a great question.
I need to mention, so they have another event at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Time for 2 more questions. I have them here in my list.
Okay, 2 more questions, guys.
So Ella asks, can your finger get stuck in a sea anemone?
Sort of. When you touch the tentacles of a sea anemone, it feels really sticky. And sometimes they're extra strong and they grip on super tight because they really want to eat you. And that's what they're trying to do. They'll try to grip onto your finger and pull you in. But luckily humans are stronger and they eventually can pull their hand out from inside anemone.
I have a fun fact about anemones.
And yeah, the student wants to share a fun fact about anemones.
What's your name again?
Lindsay,
Hi, Lindsay. What do you got?
the sticky tentacles on the anemone are actually tiny harpoons they use to reel fish in.
That's true, yes. So when you touch one and you feel that stickiness, it's actually harpooning your hand, and that's also how it catches its prey. It eats fish. Yeah.
Okay.
Fun fact.
And this one's missing a few legs.
That happens. So sometimes you find crabs that are missing legs, but just like sea stars, they can regrow them eventually. After a couple of molts, they will grow their legs back.
When a sea star loses a limb, doesn't that limb just grow into another sea star?
Sometimes, but not always.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
last
one more.
question from Victoria.
Let's see if we know this one. Why do barnacles stick to whales?
Oh, good one.
From Jacob.
Jacob, so barnacles that grow on whales are a special kind of barnacles. The ones that we have here on our beach are a different species, but the ones that grow on whales are their own special kind, and it turns out that a baby whale gets its barnacles from its mom when it's being born. So the mom whale has barnacles growing on her, and then when she gives birth to a calf, that calf then is infected with, it's not really infected, but
Yeah, when they go beside each other.
yeah, the baby whale picks up the barnacles from the mom whale, and so they are always growing on the skin of the whales. It may harm them, but it also may protect them, because sometimes whales will get barnacles growing right on the tips of their fins, and if there are predators attacking whales, such as maybe orcas attack other whales, orcas will always try to bite at the fins of the whales, and the barnacles almost serve as armor to protect them from getting eaten. So that's a cool maybe benefit of having barnacles growing all over you.
Excellent.
Hermit crab shell.
That's a beautiful shell.
I think we have to sign off, Kelly. They need to get the room ready.
All right.
So
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you there in Victoria. And if you'd like to send more comments after the show, I won't be able to answer them in person, but we can comment on the comments for the next few minutes to help answer your questions. So feel free to do so. So from Wizard Island, and with the Ucluelet First Nation kids, we're gonna sign off. Say goodbye.
say goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Toodles.
They're saying thank you.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much, guys, for finding all this.
Signing off from Wizard Islet.
Sign off.
See you later.